you doing? Charlie Winters here with selections for Friday, the 29th of July. But first, a quick recap. Well, very disappointing day. A couple of the horses ran better than the actual finishing position, but generally pretty rubbish, really. The horse, was it Le Garçon Beau or something like that? The Paul Mulrennan man. Well, it was gambled from about 10 to 1, 15 to 2, 10 to 1, somewhere around there, right down to 3 to 1 favourite. So I expected a much better run. And in the end, personally, I think it wasn't favoured by the rail. They looked like they were benefiting from the middle of the track. So enough of that. And very disappointing day. So Friday, I've got a 10 pence each way, lucky 63. And I'm also giving you the doubles again. Three in one race and three in another. And I'll give you a very brief insight into why. So the first selection in the 10 pence each way, lucky 63, is Withhold at 8 to 1 in the 150 at Goodwood. They're only paying the first three. That's the problem in this race. I think they've kind of been a bit crafty, really, because there's 15 runners. Normally, they'd probably pay first five. I think Withhold has got a cracking chance. It came second in the race last year. And I think when the push comes to shove, that extra half a mile, because it's a 2.5 mile race, I think some of them are okay over 2 mile. But when it comes to 2.5 mile, that's when the question marks start appearing. And Withhold, it's a real battler. And William Buick's on it. And I think he's riding really well. There's a decent jockey anyway. And I don't normally back him, but he is having a very good Goodwood. So there's quite a lot of confidence from me for Withhold. The second selection is Orban at 22 to 1 in the 3 o'clock at Goodwood, paying 7 places instead of 3. Well, this one will be pretty much last all the way round, or definitely towards the back. David O'Meara has got a number of horses in this race. Some of them are very badly drawn, but as Frankie did the other day with one of Mark Johnston's, I think he was drawn 19 or 16 or 19 the other day, and he actually made pretty much all. So these high draws can be okay, but I would prefer a low number. And I think Orban is drawn 2. But I'll talk more about the David O'Meara high numbered horses in a second. So the third selection is Existent at 14 to 1 in the 3:35 at Goodwood, paying 4 places instead of 3. I backed this before, about 3 runs back with Marco Gianni. Well, it was a very hot race, much hotter than this race, and it ran okay, but it was drawn on the wrong side. It was drawn more, well, basically on the wrong side. It still ran okay, but finished down the field. It came with a run, but it was just totally unfavoured by where it was drawn. I don't think. It's drawn more towards the middle of Goodwood, so I think it'll sit just behind them, travel well, then make its move, and hopefully it can at least get a place. The fourth selection is Kamari at 11 to 1 in the 10 past 4 at Goodwood, paying 4 places instead of 3. Frankie Dettori takes a ride for Godolphin. I think he's got a decent chance. It's run over further. I think it would ideally prefer softer ground. It's not going to get it tomorrow, but I still think it's good enough. It normally leads, and Frankie's very good from the front. If you can get an easy lead, it could be very interesting. I think 11 to 1 is a very tasty price. So on to the fifth horse. So the fifth horse is Beautiful Eyes at 12 to 1 in the 4:45 at Goodwood, paying 6 places instead of 4. Well, this ran 2 days ago, so it could be a non-runner. But I think the reason why they're running it again, last time it ran over 5 furlongs just 2 days ago at Goodwood. It was slowly away. And I personally think the trainer thinks that it hasn't really had a run. It's had a bit of a tempo run, a workout, and it's actually run over 6 furlongs, so that extra furlong tomorrow. And I think it's got Frankie on board. I'm not sure, but I think the trainer's thinking it didn't have a race, and I think you'll find out if it had a race, because if the trainer actually thinks it had a race, it'll withdraw it. But if it keeps it in the race, I think it's got a cracking chance. And I do like horses that run just a few days after running, or reappear a few days after running, sorry. And the final selection is probably between Withhold and Night of Luxury. And the selection is Night of Luxury at 9 to 1. For being my nap of the day, it's between those two, Withhold and Night of Luxury. So Knight of Luxury at 9 to 1, and the 520 at Goodwood paying 5 paces instead of 3. So basically, I looked at the form, I do fancy it, and I think it does seem to be improving now. But I'm thinking this horse is only rated early 80s. There's no way Godolphin would keep a horse in training if they don't think it can progress above. I think it's 84. 84 is not a high mark, especially for a Godolphin horse. And I think personally, I can't give you any figures, or any stats, but I think they've got a good strike rate with these 70-something rated horses and 80 rated horses. So I think it's due to have a cracking chance. So that's the last one in the Lucky 63. So the next ones are 50 pence each way doubles, 3 in one race and 3 in another. So basically, what I've gone for 2 of David O'Meara's and 1 of Simon Crisford and his lad's horse. So the first selection is Orban at 22 to 1 in the 3 o'clock at Goodwood. The next selection is Escapar in the 3 o'clock at Goodwood, priced up at 28 to 1. And the third selection in the 3 o'clock at Goodwood is number 6, Salame at 11 to 1. So Orban, I think it ran in this race last year. I think it was drawn about 6 or 9, but it's drawn 2 this time. Don't get me wrong, it's going to have plenty of luck, but there's about 6 or 7 horses that all want the lead in this race. So surely it's going to be a crazy pace. So that should really spread them out. It just, when the leaders come back to the held up horses, or the other way around, I just could do with really a stroke of luck so it doesn't get boxed in on the rail. So fingers crossed. So the second selection, Escobar, is actually drawn out wide. Well, I think it's Frankie on board again. And basically, he can have a good look round, tuck in, because he has got Chalier on its outside. That's from the same David O'Meara stable. Well, Chalier, I think he's drawn 22. Well, that also wants to lead. So I know the David O'Meara stable would have all got their heads together beforehand and decided the tactics, but I think Escobar will be another one that will be absolutely flying towards the finish. And finally in that race, Salame. It was off the top of my head. I think it was gelded last time. Not win operation. I think it was actually gelded, and it won on its reappearance. I think it was Epsom. Well, it's very rare that they actually ran, in my opinion, run that well after a gelding operation or a wind operation. It seems like they need a run or a couple of runs to get over it. Well, it posted pretty much its best ever run. Well, I'm thinking there's more to come. And Simon Crisford are a decent stable in the top races. So if any of those win, it all goes on to all of the next 3 horses, or if they come placed, it rolls over to the next 3. If all 3 horses do not come in the first 7, then there's nothing going on to these following horses. So as I mentioned, Knight of Luxury at 9 to 1 in the 520. I think it's, with it being rated 84, I think Godolphin can get more improvement out of this, and I think it's better than what we've seen so far. The second selection in the 520 at Goodwood is Sharp Combo at 14 to 1. Well, there's plenty of pace in this race, and if it employs the same tactics, well, this is William Buick riding it, by the way. He rode it on its penultimate start when it was, I won't say it was slowly away, but it became detached at Windsor. Well, it's going to be a fast pace, so if they decide those tactics again, it could prove fruitful by all the horses coming back to him towards the finish and William Buick making a late charge. That could be. But in the past, it's also made all or attempted to make all. So I just don't know the tactics. But I think William Buick, he was a jockey when it ran its best race yet. Hopefully, it'll run even better this time. He's on it again. And third and finally is a bit of an interesting horse. It used to be Jane Magnier's and somebody else's, and it used to be rated fairly highly and look fairly progressive. But it's since not done a great deal. I think it was John Stack. And then it's gone to Mike Appleby. Well, we know what he's like at transforming horses. Well, it's ran 2 races at Chester so far. One over 7 furlong, and I think the other one over a mile and 2. I think it's a mile and 3 today. So they've got first-time headgear on it. But also, it could be absolutely anything. How many times have you heard jockeys come back and say, it needs headgear, it wouldn't go by the horses? Well, it's been raced last all the time, and basically it hasn't beat many horses. Or you could also say, maybe it doesn't like the tight Chester turns. I'm just thinking of all these excuses the trainer or jockey could come out with if it runs a really good race or even wins. So fingers crossed. Anyway, I am kind of clutching at straws a little bit with John the Baptist, but think it's a very interesting price at 40 to 1, and also Sylvester de Souza, a very good jockey. So that's a total stake of about £21.60 for tomorrow. So the very best of luck. Charlie Winters, over and out. Cheers, mate.